He's right there.
This episode of the Bucktails podcast is brought to you by Pistol Creek and Trip Sporting Goods.
Oh, good blood.
All right, that's some good blood here.
Yeah.
Shut up. Yeah. Look at that. Woo. Good deer, babe. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bucktails podcast. This is your host, Eli Self. I've got with me today Chris Gayton. He is the state champion or part of the state championship team with Aaron Cole for the Georgia Bass TEC for 2023. So they fished on February 25th on Lake Blue Ridge and won arguably the biggest prize in electrical and fishing, probably in the world, definitely in this country, but I would assume worldwide. Um, Definitely the biggest payout that I've ever heard of. It's pushing $20,000 in value between two e-propulsion Navy 6.0 Evo motors and two battery packs. Like I said, pushing $20,000 in value. So an incredible state championship. And for those of you that don't know, the TEC is the top four teams from 9 or 10 clubs in Georgia come together for on one lake once a year to crown a true state champion. So, Chris, thank you for coming on. Looking forward to talking to you. I've always looked up to you ever since I've been kind of involved in the electrical league game. I've seen you and seen who you fish with, and you've been, very successful on a state level. So, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you, Eli. I appreciate you having me. Looking forward to this.
Yes, sir. So, I did not qualify for the TEC this year. Me and my partner finished up sixth. So I was there helping with a weigh in. I was a weigh in fish. I'm pretty sure I put your basket of winning fish onto the scales that day. But
Sure.
so super great day, super great event that Merritt has started up there. But just go through kind of your day. Was it did y'all pre-fish? Did you know exactly what you were going to do, or was it kind of you stumbled upon something that day and it worked out? How did it work out for you?
So we did not pre-fish. I know we were talking to a lot of people before the tournament, and they were questioning why we hadn't pre-fished, and we kind of knew going into it an area that we wanted to focus on. Um, we discussed the pre-fishing part of it, but that time of year, so much stuff is changing, and we didn't want, Aaron and I didn't want to go up pre-fish, get something stray off of our game plan. We've been very blessed, both in the fishing world and especially on that lake. So that was our fourth tournament on that lake. We fished two with EBO, which is who we qualified through the Electric Bass Opens, and we fished one with North Georgia John Boat Anglers. That was our fourth one. And all four of those tournaments have been won in the same area. And when I say area, I mean, it's pretty, we called up twice once we left that area throughout the day. Other than that, all of our fish come from a 200-yard stretch of water. So we come in that morning, and I almost let it get the best of me. So I went out to the truck for a minute, come back down, and was walking back down and had my headlight on and seen like a 6 or 7 pound lip sitting under a dock float at the marina. I went back to the boat, talked to Aaron about it, and I was like, man, that would be awesome. And we talked about it for a few minutes and decided to stick with our plan. So we run up lake, and got into the area, or towards the river, I guess I should say. Yeah, up lake. Got to the area where we were going to fish. I kind of stopped short and started using Panoptics. I wanted to get a good temperature read on the water, and started moving up, casting out a little deeper. Got up into a ditch, and probably my second or third cast in that ditch, I caught one of the 4-pounders that we had, and got him in the boat. Aaron was starting a live well, putting the fish on a call tag, weighing the fish, I threw back up there. I lost one. Turned around and made another cast and had another bite, and set the hook 15 to 20 foot of water. At this time, I'd not seen any of those fish on forward-facing sonar. Once I caught that fish, I did realize, how many fish were actually in the area. Got that fish to the boat, and I was throwing a 2.8 Kitech on a 3/8 jig head. Got that fish to the boat, and it was actually hooked in the top of the nose, which was kind of ironic. That was a blessing in itself. The fish swiped at the bait, set the hook, and was able to land the fish that way. So got that fish in a boat. I spun the trolling motor back around, and when I did, I realized how many fish was in that area. There was probably 20 fish come up off the bottom with that fish.
Wow.
And that pretty much set the pace for the rest of our day. So we probably made 10 or 15 more casts, had some more bites, wasn't hooking anything, nothing. I mean, they were just, nipping at it. We turned around and started to head out, and Aaron, I was throwing actually a pink colored 2.8 Kitech, and a cast swim bait. And Aaron put on a shad color, and he caught our third fish on that. So we fished around a little while longer, moved around to another ditch on the other side. And as we were going, there's an island there. And as we were going around the island, I made a cast up on the bank with a crankbait, caught one fish on a crankbait. Just wasn't the size we were looking for. And we fished until probably about 10 o'clock. When we moved around to the other ditch, started up in the ditch, and Aaron threw a cast parallel and caught one. And then caught another one, finished out our limit. And he literally, I get all excited for anybody that's never fished with me. Sometimes I get over the top excited. Aaron does a good job at keeping me kind of calm, but I've always said, if I ever lose that, I'm going to quit. So I made a cast, and Aaron was literally saying if we had another 4-pounder, he thought we may have a shot at it. And I hadn't turned the reel handle over 3 times and got a bite, set the hook, and it was a 4-1. So immediately I got on my phone, called my wife. She wasn't at home. She was actually at a kid's birthday, one of my daughter's friends' birthday parties, and she wasn't going to have time to get up there anyways. But we fished around a little while longer. The fish kind of shut down in that ditch as well. We went back over, caught a couple more where we had originally started, and really couldn't call up. And then we started thinking about time and, if something happened to the boat, worst case scenario. So we started headed back down lake towards the marina, and I got on my active captain app on the Garmin app and pulled up the maps and found 2 ditches kind of similar to what we were fishing that morning. And there was a boat coming out of the right-hand side going into the left-hand ditch. And we went up behind where that boat had went, spun Panoptics around, and seen some fish on the Garmin live scope, and we both fired out. There was 2 fish. I hooked one, and Aaron hooked the other back to back. So it was pretty special. Both of those fish would have actually called up, but in the TEC there was a rule around dead fish was a half-pound penalty, and we knew it was going to be close. And I think it was going to be a 3-ounce call, but his fish was hooked pretty deep. The hook had actually turned up and nicked a gill, and we just wasn't willing to take that chance. If it, we would have called up by 3 ounces and lost half an ounce if the fish would have not made it. So we let that fish go. Called the fish that I'd caught, and fish from there really all the way back to the marina. Caught several fish in that time span as well. Nothing, not what we were looking for. Uh, did get some good action shots for the Tiny Boat Nation crew. They were out there filming us, and was able to catch some fish in front of them. But that was pretty much it. That was our day, man. It was a very fun day. We were definitely blessed. Everything just worked out, and you know had a good time on the water.
No, yeah, no, that sounds like it was a crazy day from y'all. First couple of casts, you caught a big one, and then just, I mean, it sounds like it was a dream of a day. Obviously, you won the state championship, almost 19 pounds. I
Yep,
had the weights pulled up here. Y'all had 1871, and was that all spots?
all spots it was.
Yes, I mean, almost a 19-pound bag of spotted bass anywhere in the country is spectacular, except for maybe Lake Lanier right now. I mean, if you don't have 22 on Lanier, I mean, you might not win, but I
Yeah,
mean, 19 pounds of spots is spectacular. Then second, not far behind y'all right at 1698, right at 17 pounds was American JV, and they had a smallmouth in theirs, but no, I mean 19 pounds, largemouth spots. I don't care what it is. I mean, that's a heck of a day.
it
But
was,
that's
man. And
that's interesting. Y'all didn't go up there and pre-fish. You had history there, which is nice. And sometimes pre-fishing is great, and sometimes pre-fishing is a huge crutch to me personally. Like you said, like you were talking about, you didn't want to have too much of a preconceived notion of what might work. I mean, February, this early time of the year, especially in Georgia, it's either going to be 80 or it's going to be like 30 or 40. You know what I mean?
yeah,
The weather changes so much. So I think that was pretty smart of y'all to not pre-fish, go on what you knew, just, fish the day for what it is. And I think that's hard for a lot of people, myself included, is to, fish open-minded and not rely too much on what happened last week or the week before. Especially this
yep.
early time of the year, it just changes so much. So no, but congratulations again. That sounds like a crazy day, a good day. But
It
you talked a
was. It was
good
a blast.
yeah. But you talked a good bit about forward facing sonar. Like you said the first one you didn't see him on the forward facing sonar. But how much how much has live scope changed how you fish? Has it changed you from like a power to a finesse fisherman? Or do you do kind of the same stuff, or is it a huge piece of your arsenal now?
Um, you know, I'm kind of torn on that. So,
Yeah.
you know, I, we have a mutual friend, Taylor Smith. He's always saying if you're not scoping, you're hoping. Uh, so for me, I'm not it. So it does give me the confidence that I'm fishing around fish, and I know when I'm pulling up somewhere that the fish are there. Um, but getting those fish to eat. So even before forward facing sonar, um, you know, several lakes that we had fished, I'd fish, open water over 80 foot of water, throwing top water, and people's like, "What are you doing?" They give me a hard time about it, but I knew the fish lived there. I mean, a lot of big fish will suspend in a water column and they feed on it, especially if that's where your bait's at. Um, you know, they're just sitting out there and kind of wolf packing, and I did that a lot before forward facing sonar. Um, but I will tell you, forward facing sonar helps you tune into those fish. It also gets you in trouble. So the big thing about forward facing sonar for me is knowing when to leave those fish, when they're not eating, when they're not feeding, when you can't get them to react to a bait, and not spending the time wasting or burning a bunch of your day fishing for fish that are just not going to be active. Um, so that's the biggest thing for me. It really hasn't. Aaron will probably argue that because I do spend a lot of time looking at the Garmin. I mean, throughout the day. But again, it's not to I'm not looking to see every fish bite. I'm just looking to see that we're around fish. Um, and I think it has helped out in a lot of situations, but it's also hurt me in a lot of situations. So it's finding that good balance.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a hot topic in fishing. You hear all the pundits online of people saying, it's ruined fishing and people just go out and video game fish now. And I'm still relatively new. I just this year have gotten live scope.
Yeah,
So I'm definitely not, well versed with it. I'm still kind of getting used to it. Not super confident with it yet. And it bit me and my partner in a tournament earlier this year where we had probably 15 hookups, 15 bites where they nipped at it, or they pulled drag, hook that doubled up. I had one bite an Alabama rig right at the trolling motor. It jumped up, hit the trolling motor, and came off. Some bad luck there, but we stayed on those fish, chased them, a large portion of the day, and never didn't leave soon enough, I think. But
yeah,
and like you said, it's the knowing when to leave those fish because I've always enjoyed 2D sonar and drop shotting. I feel like I'm confident in myself in that. But with 2D sonar, you only see so much. With the forward facing sonar, you can see it's good because you can see the brush before you get on top of it. You can see fish if they're active and reacting to your bait. But you can also see the fish and they're reacting to your bait.
that's
Maybe
right.
not biting it, and you can spend 3 hours and like, all right, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? And I think that's what a lot of people are kind of talking about now is when how to know when to stay on the fish and when to leave the fish. Is it a certain amount of time or is it just a kind of a gut feeling? And it's as with anything with fishing, I feel like it's got to be a gut feeling. You have to kind of develop that gut of, all right, I'm gonna stay here. I know fish are here, and know when to leave too.
Yeah.
So
It's really just it really boils down to putting time on the water. I mean,
yeah,
spending the time, knowing how the fish are reacting. Um, for me, I mean, I was doing the same thing with side image. Um, I could see the fish suspended out in the water column, and I fish for those same fish and a lot of the same ways. Now, there has been instances, like I say, where the forward facing sonar has really helped, where I've been able to see my bait go to those fish and watch them eat the bait. Um, but that's also the instances where you have the fish following it. They're right up behind it, and you're like, man, what can I do to make those fish react? And you end up burning a day up trying to do that.
yeah, no, for sure, and that's something that I've noticed. I'll find a brush pile on Lake Lanier, throw my Alabama rig over top of the brush pile, and see 4 or 5 fish come up and just like spaghetti themselves all over the A rig, and then they never touch it. Or you'll feel them just barely nipping, barely nipping. You're like, come on, dude, and it's addicting. It's like you just want to like, all right, no, they're gonna bite next cast. Oh, they're gonna bite
Yeah,
next cast, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But you
that's
said
it.
something earlier that's kind of a good mindset to have with this is at least you're around fish, you're penning around, you can see, okay, there's fish in the area. I'm just gonna fish. And that's, even with 2D sonar, I got better with 2D sonar and drop shotting vertically whenever I wasn't trying to watch a fish eat my bait. I might see, fish spaghettiing underneath, on. Can you hear me there still?
Yes, I got you here.
Okay, you're
I've
good.
got audio, I lost video.
Well, as long as you've got audio, we'll be all right. We can do without the video.
Yes,
But
sir.
what I was saying is, yeah, the I got better with 2D sonar whenever I stopped worrying about watching the fish eat the bait. I would see them down there. I'm like, okay, I know there's fish underneath the front of my boat somewhere. I would drop it and just work the lure. And that's something that, you don't hear people talk about a lot with forward facing is like, you pan your motor around, there's a fish out there, 25 feet in front of your boat. But,
Yep.
the first day I had my sonar, I'm like, oh crap, I can't see my bait. I can't see my bait. But realistically, it's perfectly fine. Just work the bait. You know it's going to be around those fish, and they probably will still bite it.
That's
So
right.
but we get in this mindset of is video game fishing. You want to watch them eat the bait, that kind of stuff. So it's tough, but no, definitely it's a great tool. It's definitely something you got to learn and tweak on. But sounds like you guys have it definitely dialed in.
Yeah, I mean, man, so I still learn every day. So I learn something new every day, and that's one thing I think. You know, in bass fishing in general and fishing in general, um, it's constantly changing. Um, the fish are continuously pressured. Those fish that used to have the safe zones and safe areas, you know, it's easier for people to find those fish and be around those fish and applying that pressure when with the forward facing sonar. So I try to that's one thing that I challenge myself with is every time I go out on the water, I want to take home something home, whether I've caught fish or not caught fish or um, whatever the case is. I try to learn something, and then I think another big part of our success is not you have to have your confidence baits. And I was actually just speaking to someone else about this, and when I pre-fish, so typically if I do pre-fish, or if I know I got a lake coming up that I don't normally fish or I have never fished, um, it was a little bit different for us there at Blue Ridge, but um, I will go out and intentionally put a bait in my hands that I normally never fish, um, just to try to build confidence in another bait. And I think the more baits that you have confidence in certain situations in, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting that you say that. Like confidence baits for me, like typically if I'm on the water, like I do not branch out a whole lot, even on pre-fishing days. Like some like lately I get stuck in just trying to, work on my craft of, like working on a hook set, working on getting the fish in the boat, just, trying to catch fish and go into what I always do. Like for me, it's a shaky head or maybe a crankbait. Those are my two. If nothing else works, I'll pick up a shaky head. But that's interesting. You say, if you're on a new body of water or you're pre-fishing, whatever, you want to pick up something to gain confidence in to, broaden those horizons. So that's no, that's definitely a great tip. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, my confidence baits is really um, probably my number one confidence bait is a jig. Um, but I don't do a lot of, um, it, I go through phases. So I'll throw swim baits, I'll throw jigs, I'll throw spinner baits, chatter baits. Chatter baits one that I've spent a lot more time with recently, um, just because I typically didn't throw a chatter bait a lot. Um, it wasn't until a few years ago that a jig become my number one confidence bait. So a few years ago, I was listening to a podcast that I think Fish North Georgia was doing, or maybe it was a YouTube video or something. They had an angler on there, and he was talking about his jig, and literally that Saturday, I picked up a jig. It's been probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and I took every other rod out of my boat. I took I put 3 rods in my boat with 3 different kinds of jigs or 3 different colors of jigs, and I devoted a day of nothing but jig fishing. And it was a summertime day, and went out. And by the end of the day, I had a really good day, um, and just started really focusing on that. And I've done the same thing over the years with small swim baits, big swim baits. there's not very many people, at least around in Georgia, that'll pick up a big 10-inch glide bait and throw it around. And um, I like to do that. So that's and not that I'm not caught a ton of fish on them, but I have caught a lot of fish. I've had days where I've caught several fish on a 10-inch bait, and sometimes the fish are not very much bigger than a glide bait, but it's just something that I've not accustomed to doing, and just wanting to learn.
Yeah, no, that's something that I think a lot of people are watching videos on. You see Ben Milliken throwing the big glide baits, things like that out in Texas, and
Yep.
I'm hesitant. I've bought a few smaller, glide baits or swim baits. Like one thing I've thrown, and I did a lot of last summer was the baby bull shad,
Yep.
and treating it like a square bill because I mean they're what 3.5, 4 inches long maybe.
Yeah.
I think they're done by the Catch Company, Catch or Cast. I think it's Catch Company,
Cast. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cast.
Yeah. Catch.
Yeah, cast
It
or
is.
catch, one of the 2, but, smaller bull shad type bait, and, I mean, it's, summertime, they're up there shallow, pushing up brim. I caught quite a few fish on it last summer, um, and he said that jig is probably your main, you know, confidence bait, and that's something that, I've thrown jigs. Mostly, for me, a jig is to throw around docks on Lake Lanier, to skip around docks, shallow cover. For you, is it like it's your main confidence bait? Is it a shallow bait? Is it a deep bait? Is it all the above? Like, what is your main go to? Like, if you pull up to a pocket or a point or, whatever, what do you like to target with a jig?
Um, Really any and everything. So all the above. I've thrown them offshore and you know up to 50, 60 foot of water. Um, and then I've thrown them in inches of water on the bank. Um, Another thing that I've just started picking up and trying to learn more about is a swim jig. Just another, you know, version of a jig. And um, this time of year's typically a good time of year to start throwing that swim jig. And then you was just talking about the brim. When the brim starts spawning, that's another excellent choice. But I've I, so it's really, I guess for me it's not where I'm throwing the jig. I like to have I don't if the wind's blowing, that's great. If it's not, that's fine too. But for me, one key for a jig is sunshine. Um, Typically, I get a lot more bites on a jig if I have sun. So had a rough go at it this year. Um, it is still my confidence bait, but I just haven't had it here in Georgia. We've had a lot of rainy, nasty weekends, and definitely a wet winter going into spring so far. So I haven't had a lot of good days with a jig. Um, Caught more fish on crankbaits and Kitex and the cast swim baits and stuff like that than I have uh, chatterbait. Caught a few fish on chatterbait and caught a few big fish on a big swim bait. But so a couple weeks ago, we fished out on Lanier and we had right at 19 pounds on Lanier with EBO. And as bad as I wanted a jig bite, I never could really get one. I think I caught one fish on a jig, and that was rotating through quite a bit. Um, but again, it was later in the day, the sun come out, but the fish just wasn't really set up for a jig. Um, Most of our fish that day come on a crankbait, um, on a spro rock crawler, and then we also caught. I lost a really big fish on a um, what is it? Dangerous swim bait, the new Chris Zaldane helped design. I can't remember who makes it, but the dangerous swim bait.
Yeah.
I had skipped it up under a dock and lost a really well lost two fish on it, really a good spot on it, and then I also lost a really big largemouth on it. But even though a jig is my confidence, my go-to, um, again, you just got to know when to lay those baits down and what's working, and that's why I think it's really important that you put as many baits as you can in your arsenal and have confidence in those baits so that you're I'm not going to say well versed. You're always going to have your strong suit, but you want to, yeah, I mean, you want to be well versed in as many baits as you can, just for those different situations.
Right. No, you make a good point there. Because whenever you're, in a tournament day, we've all had those days where, like, you want to have those good gut instincts, because, like, whenever you're down and out and you're having a bad day, can't get a bite, you're a couple hours in, don't have a limit yet, you want to have that bait. Okay, I think this will work. I can pick this up. I feel good about it. You don't want to have that day where you're like, I have no idea what to throw. I have no idea what they're going to bite. That's a bad place to be in. So, like you said, expanding your horizons, confidence is good, but
Yep.
having more things, having, 7, 8, 9 different things that you could pick up at any given time is, important. That's, like here lately, I've been trying to work more on some of those big fish baits, like a glide bait. I got some at the Jimbo Expo that he put on. I forget what the name of it is. Long Mountain something. He makes glide baits and swim baits, but I've got a couple little glide baits from him. I think they're like 5 inches, but they look great. You can kind of use them like a twitch bait. I mean, you can just about walk the dog with them underneath the water. So I'm looking forward to the summertime. Some of those schooling fish on that, but another bait I've been trying to dive into, and I've had some luck on starting last summer. Really, is an Alabama rig.
Hmm.
I a lot of guys in our realm, the electric only world, throw them. I mean, you go by like guys in my club, at least the guys who are really good. Half the time when you pass them on the lake, one of the partners is throwing an A rig, and that's something that I had never really thrown before. I'm like, well, heck, if they're going to do it, I guess I need to learn how to do it myself. And last year kind of got used to throwing it some, but I did not have live scope last summer. But I started figuring out a little bit of a pattern last summer on it on 2D. I would see fish chasing a spoon or chasing a drop shot. Then I went, okay, there's fish active. I would back off and then start fan casting that Alabama rig through the area that my boat was just sitting in. And I caught a lot of fish that way, caught bigger fish in my tournaments that way. And I've caught some of my bigger fish this year so far in tournaments on the Alabama rig. And it's just a big, ugly looking chandelier of a bait, but it produces fish. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, it is. So that's one that I don't know. I kind of have a love hate relationship with a rig. I know it catches fish really anywhere that we go, but I've literally thrown it about 20 or 30 times this year and caught my first two fish on it this weekend over at Latham. And used to do, I used to throw it a lot and had some really, really good luck on it when I was fishing with Mike and SWAT and Merrick's group. And, I threw it a lot and I need to pick that back up. I guess part of my, what's hard for me is I get too many baits where I want to learn more and I want to build confidence and just like you said, knowing what to do. I know a lot of it's timing. We had a tournament 2 weeks ago down at High Falls, and we went down and pre-fished, and it was tough, terrible. I mean, we may have had 6 pounds or something. It was crazy, which day of the tournament, it was very tough too. But we were talking about making those decisions and going with your gut feeling and stuff like that. That morning, we were literally blasting off, and my partner Tommy, he said, "Man, I wish we would have looked for a lighted boat dock just to fish around first thing. Even though it's safe light, you're still. It was overcast, and we were going across the water, and I said, "Well, there's a dock right there that's got a bunch of lights on it." And he said, let's go hit it." And I said, "Yeah." So we pulled over there, and in 6 minutes, we caught 11 pounds. Um, and that was more than we caught, the entire time leading up to that pre-fishing. And it took us the rest of the day to catch I mean, we had 4 fish. It was just over 11 pounds, and it took us the rest of the day to catch 13 pounds. So, you're talking about making those calls or those going with your gut, or just doing what you feel you need to do and making a good decision. That was a really good example of that. Is just off the whim, didn't really have nothing to go on anyway, so just try something different. We pulled up, and like I say, we had 11 pounds, and literally within 6 minutes. And when those fish shut down, they shut down, and it took us all day. So that's that's another thing to keep in mind. I over the years, there's been very few tournaments that I can look back on, um, or that comes to mind, where we've had days of catching, good fish, big fish, throughout the day. Most of the time, those come in small waves, just pulling up on the right school at the right time. They're feeding. Typically, it's a small window, and then a lot of it's being at the right place at the right time. You pull up and you catch 15 or 20 pounds in just a few minutes. I know, me and Mike, whenever we fished the first TEC, that Merrick and all the club presidents had come together and put on that hard labor. We fished all day long and had nothing. And that was before forward facing sonar, or before I had forward facing sonar. I was actually fishing out of Mike's boat. I'd gotten a backlash, literally not a backlash, but some loose line down in my spool. I turned around out the back of the boat and threw a spinnerbait out the back of the boat just to loosen the line or tighten the line back up on the reel, and caught a 4 pounder. And we went down that bank, moved out, you know, 50 yards, and went down that bank a little bit deeper, and ended up, I think we had 20 or 21 pounds um, in the last hour and a half of the tournament. So, um, we were blessed to be able to win that one as well. And it was really just by mistake that we even stumbled across that bite. But, you know, when something like that happens and you think it's out of the ordinary, it's capitalizing on those little things that means so much.
Yeah, and that's the you know letting the lake talk to you throughout the day. Like whenever you're like feeling good, you're in touch with it. To me, those are the best days I have. And it's like people you hear it all the time of well, I won pre-fishing, or we had a great time pre-fishing, the tournament was awful. You hear that all the time. And it's probably, and most of the time to me, it's because I went out there, I was open minded, I was letting the day speak to me, letting the lake, whatever was going to happen, I was going to let it, let me know what to do, trying to find something instead of being closed minded. And like you said, sometimes you stumble across the right school at the right time. And, outside looking in, pull up to the weigh in, you're like, oh, I've had a decent day. I've got 10, 11 pounds, wherever you may be. Someone else comes in with 18 and you're like, crap, man, they must have wore them out. But truth be told, they may have had 30 minutes out of 8 hours that was good. Like,
That's right.
like the guys who won our last tournament for Dahlonega John Boat out of Thompson Creek, they had 17, I think, 17 pushing 18 pounds. And they said me and my partner watched them catch most of their fish. We were just across the cove from them, and they were catching the crap out of them. We couldn't catch a cold over on our side, but he said that they just ended up starting on that stretch of docks, went back and forth on it, and they could not get a bite anywhere else. They said they even went down the stretch of bank that we were on, like it was another like stretch of docks. And they said they went down that side, couldn't get a bite, went back to the side that they were on and just started whacking them again. But it's, sometimes it's that fast.
It
But
is.
like you said, it's knowing when to make that decision, knowing when to stay. But no, fishing and all in all that we've kind of arrived at here is fish are weird and fishing is weird. I mean, it's
That's it.
there's no rhyme or reason. And there are podcasts and videos out there trying to dissect, and you should do this here, you should do this there. And it's a lot of it is have confidence in what you're doing, keep a lure in the water, and just fish. I mean, that's
Yep.
if it's meant to be, it'll meant to be, and that's just part of it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, 90% of it to me is timing.
oh,
So
100%, and that's one of the. I'll tell you a story of some of the craziest timing I've had before. Then we'll get into kind of your boat setup and some things like that. But on it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago, maybe on Yehula up here in Dahlonega. In the wintertime, typically crankbait has been great for me. Fish the bridge, fish the dam, fish all that riprap. That's pretty much all I'll fish in the wintertime when it's cold. Well, we had a tournament there, like I said, 5, 6 years ago, probably a 13 or 14 boat tournament. So we made it over to the dam on the riprap, and we were not going to move. I knew there were fish there. I've been doing really good there leading up to the tournament. Within the first 15, 20 minutes on a crankbait, I think I was throwing 5 XDs on this day. I'd call a limit for probably 8 pounds, no time. We sat there, kept on throwing. I switched over to a worm some. My partner, I was throwing a shallower crankbait, and he was throwing like a big DD22. It may have been a 6 cents, like their 500 DD or whatever they call it, but it was a big, deep diving crankbait. And after an hour and a half, he had not had a bite all morning. All of a sudden, after an hour and a half of throwing basically on the same stretch of rocks, he caught a 4 and a 6 within 5 minutes of each other,
wow.
and just set the day. And I kept on telling him, like, man, I know they're here. We're not leaving. We're gonna keep on doing it. They're gonna decide to bite here in a minute. But it was, I mean, an hour and a half, pushing 2 hours of him not getting a bite and staying committed to that one bait. Then all of a sudden, like you said, the timing deal. We could have left and not done any better, but we stayed there, waited till the time was right, and I mean, whacked them, won the tournament. I mean, it was incredible. But
Yeah. It's crazy how that stuff works.
but but yeah, so getting into your boat setup, I know I talk about electric only fishing on this a good bit. What is your boat setup? What's your motor that you're running now? I know you won a new motor, but I think you already had any propulsion if I'm not mistaken. So what is your setup for your boat?
I did. Yes, sir. So I have got a 2003 Fisher 1860. Um, just a couple of years ago now, I swapped over. I was running all trolling motors. I swapped over to an e-propulsion, the some of the very first Evo 6.0s that come out, and their E175 battery pack. Um, I just recently sold my original motor and battery pack and put one of the motors on that we just won in the state championship with the in the E175 battery pack, a new one to replace that. Um, Running a Lowrance Ghost up front, 1222 Garmin. Uh, I just I strictly use it for forward facing sonar, and then Lowrance HDS9 Live for mapping. and side imaging. Rarely, I use side imaging, um, but not to the extent that I used to use it. Um, but everything's decked in aluminum. My plan is this off season I'm going to do an overhaul on the boat. I want to repaint it, put a new bottom coat on it, get rid of the carpet, um, and do some different stuff with the lids. I'm gonna put the turf on it, using uh, most everything on it. Other than that, like your small accessories, your switch panels and draft mounts, recessed foot, um, trolling motor, foot pedal, all that stuff is stuff that I got through Tiny Boat Nation. Um, just recently upgraded some of that stuff through them. Their fuse panel, um, they've got a lot of great stuff there. But um, that's it. That's the boat. It's got I've got full size rod lockers on both sides. Um, Running all lithium. So my trolling motor, I've got it currently because the e-propulsion. It's been great. You don't use your front trolling motor nearly as much when you're making those long runs or trying to get to your first areas. So I swapped it from 36 to 24 volt using Monster Marine 100 amp hour lithium batteries. Got two of those for that. Um, Recently just swapped over to a 16 volt high power 60 amp hour lithium for my forward facing sonar. And then um, everything else runs off another 100 amp hour Monster Marine lithium. So total lithium, running about right around 8 miles an hour um, with my current setup, and that's pretty much it. It's when I first got the boat, so Aaron um, Cole, which was the other half of the state champion this year, um, and Russ Edwards built this boat. It's been some years back. Um, and I built a 16-foot myself, and well, I was really just a saw man. Mike Strickland pretty much built my old boat. It was a 17-foot bass tracker, um, and or 16-foot bass tracker. I'm sorry. We built it all out of aluminum, and had a friend of mine that was interested in buying it, and I was kind of hesitant to go up to a boat this size, especially electric only fishing. Wherever you can save weight, the better off you are. And it would be hard for me to go back to a smaller boat. Like I say, I thought the 1860 was going to be too big of a boat, but it's been really nice. It's and for its size, it's the whole design, um, the boat layout, everything is pretty quick for its size and the size motor that I'm running.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've got definitely one of the Cadillacs of the electric only world for sure. A lot of guys had the electric outboards now, the fully aluminum decked out rigs, live scope. I mean, it's incredible to see kind of how this world has changed and the money that guys are putting into it. And but no, yours is kind of the dream. I mean, that's what the 17, 18-foot aluminum boat, decked out fully aluminum, no wood at all lithiums. I mean, that's the pinnacle of what we have right now. I mean, there are a couple of companies that make a 50 horse or a 70 horse. I know Elko makes some bigger ones. There's one called Stealth. I think they make a 50 or a 70 and maybe one bigger than that. But, you know, at that point, it's trying to afford, the batteries that go along with it. And I think Pure Watercraft might make a large motor like that too. But I mean, what you're doing is what a lot of guys around here, that Navy 6.0, that 8 to 10 mile an hour range is kind of the cusp of it. But you said you were nervous to go up to a bigger boat from a 16 foot, and that's something that I feel like a lot of people kind of battle with is if they're getting into electric only, what size boat do they get? Do they get fiberglass? Do they get aluminum? And I know I'm sure you know of Michael Temples. He's
Mm-hmm.
got to me he has the perfect electric only bass boat. It's an old Bullet.
Yep.
It's a 17 or 18-foot Bullet. Those are I think he said his boat the hull by itself weighs only 700 pounds, and he just has got a Navy 6.0, and I think he's pushing 8 miles an hour in that. But he's looking to get a jack plate because he said it's not the height's not quite right, so he's got to get a way to adjust it.
Yep.
So that's something that's very interesting because it's the idea is to get all aluminum, but like myself included, I have terrible balance. I've got disabilities and all, but I've fished on a couple of buddies' boats that have the 17 or 18-foot boat, kind of like yours, and it's sturdy, but I mean, I can trip over level ground. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I fish. I'm on an old 19-foot Hydrosport. I mean, and
Yep.
it's big, it's slow. I have trolling motors only, so I'll run 5.2 miles an hour on a good day. But but the storage
Yeah.
and the stability is kind of what I'm leaning on right now. But
No, that's huge, and a huge shout out to you too, Eli. You do a fantastic job, and I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but I just want a lot of respect for you. There's a lot of people in your situation that wouldn't even put forward the effort, and you put forth so much effort into this and do a great job at it. So huge shout out to you for that.
no, I appreciate that. I haven't talked about it on here a whole lot, but no, it's definitely a lot of tweaking, trial and error is what it's taken. Like on my bait casters, I take off one of the handles because the way I hold the reel, it would hit my fingers, reeling it around. I
Yep.
don't throw spinning reels at all because same deal, like the bell would hit my hand the way I hold the rod. So, it's been a lot of trial and error, but it's perseverance and just trying to get through. But no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and two, there's a lot to be said for that for really anybody. I mean, as far as the stabilization versus the lightweight. I mean, when you take all of that weight out of a boat, especially these aluminum boats, I mean, really, in a 16 or 17-foot boat, I would have a hard time. I do believe this one being 1860, it does, it's a little bit more stable. Than a smaller aluminum boat. And Michael's boat is it's uh it's awesome. He's got it set up great. Um, I, he actually fishes with us in the electric fishing series, and I've seen him, several times out on the lake. But there's a lot to be said for that too. Having that fiberglass boat, and especially one like that that's set up where he can get some good speed out of it. It's stable. A lot of that stuff's already built in. Um, where with an aluminum boat, you're pretty much building a hole out, and then um, you know it takes a very little bit of wind. I mean, just a slight wind, you know, blows these aluminum boats around pretty good. So
Yeah, like I think that's part of the draw to aluminum is the fact that guys like ourselves get to custom build. It's whatever you want, whatever layout you want. You can pick out the sizes of all the compartments and rod lockers. I think that's the draw to a lot of it. Is it's something to tinker on, it's something to build and make it your own. So it's to each his own, obviously, but it's just interesting to see the wide range of some guys have. I've got two boys in my club that fish out of a 14-foot John boat, not decked out at all, just seats on it, a trolling motor on the back, a trolling motor on the front, and and they catch them. I mean, you have that all the way up to 20 and $30,000 rigs that are completely custom electric outboards and whole 9 yards. It's just that's one thing I like about this scene is whatever you've got, bring it, and it's you can compete.
yeah, absolutely. I know in the electric fishing series, Geiger and Randy, they're still a trolling motor boat. I think they've got a 16-foot bass tracker. And I believe that's the make of the boat. And then all the way up to Troy, he's running a Elco EP50. I think he's fixing to swap over to the Stealth 75, but he's running up, in excess of 30 miles an hour. And it's unbelievable. He's got, the Garmin Force, the Garmin, I think it's the 102, I can't remember what size. I know they're all 12s. I think he's got 3 12-inch Garmins on it. It's got all custom built. It's the Cadillac for sure.
Right, and like I said, there's the two polar opposites in this world, but that's the fun part about it. So, and you brought up electric fishing series. So, and I know y'all are doing like a northern and a southern division. So, what are y'all's plans for the future for the electric fishing series, and like where do you see it going in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
So I mean, I've always dreamed pretty big, and we ever since that first TEC that myself and Mike won, that was a pretty amazing feeling as far and again this year, and we're really looking, with the help of a lot of others, um, to I don't want to say to expand as people want to expand. I guess that's the best way to put it. So we've had, we have a challenge here in North Georgia, especially with lakes, finding lakes that are large enough to hold more than 20 to 25 boats. So this year when we got started, we actually teamed up with Tiny Boat Nation. Um, I shouldn't say this year when we got started. Last minute, we actually teamed up with Tiny Boat Nation to form the electric fishing series, and it was formerly the Electric Elite division, and it was, we had other plans starting out, and they kind of got sidetracked. So we went back and kind of revamped everything, made it open tournaments. Anybody could join up, but to qualify for the classic, just so we could guarantee payouts for the classic, we had to put some stipulations in place where you had to fish a certain amount of events, 5 out of the 7 events, and pay for all 7 events to qualify for the classic. And we had a lot of interest in that. Had anglers reaching out, and I actually had to cut it off at a certain date this time because we were at full capacity. I mean, the schedule was already out. We couldn't handle any more boats on a lot of the lakes we fish. But going forward, I mean, I just want, it's we're looking to build something that anybody can fish, and the only way we can do that and offer that open membership to anybody is to have different divisions. So the way it's kind of laid out now, the South Division and North Division, we have what we're calling our mega tournaments, where we have, are not mega tournaments, but everybody's fishing together. We have one tournament on Lanier. It'll hold the boats. We also have another tournament on hard labor later in the year, where both the North and the South fish together. Points are tracked separately for the North Division and the South Division. And you have a points champion for both divisions, and then you have an overall points champion, because we're going off the same points setup, and we're also going off of, we have the identical set of scales for both North and South. And the top 10 boats for the North and the top 10 boats for the South will fish day 1 of the classic. That day, will be on a southern lake, or what we're calling a southern lake. I don't guess it's really southern, but um, it's further south than where we're at currently. So, um, in day two, the top 10 boats from day one um, will fish the second the second day, um, and then the classic winner will get the big prize. Um, so a huge shout out to Tiny Boat Nation, um, and all of our other sponsors that are involved this year. Um, we couldn't have done this without all of them being involved, and we got several people that stepped up and was able to come together. Trying to think of all of them here, and I may miss a few, but Bagley, John Meagle, Chevrolet, and Ford, Mark Gayton Stone. Let's see, Georgia Blade, Innovative Plumbing, Peachtree Fence and Gates, Sonar Pros, TNT Automotive, Southern Elite Contracting, 400 Inc. played a big part in it. Angler Armor. Let's see, P&G Cleaning Services. I got to put that out there. My wife would be upset if I didn't put that out there. Flags of the Fallen, First Mechanical Service, and JSO Logistics. So all of those sponsors come together, and basically what we did was we took all of that, teamed up with Tiny Boat Nation, and for this year's going to be for Angler of the Year. Next year it'll be for the Classic prize, but we are building a custom new boat from Tiny Boat Nation, and that will go to be decked out. 400 Inc. is going to provide a wrap. Tiny Boat Nation Southeast is going to do all the work. Nate up in Illinois, he's going to bring the boat down and put together a really nice prize package for the classic winners. And then this year to be for the points champions, but next year to be for the classic winners. So it kind of gives everybody an opportunity, as long as you qualify for the classic, to win that prize. So going forward, we're really just looking to expand. What my whole goal and everything, or our whole goal and everything, is just to really put together, fun events for everybody to enjoy, offer great payouts and prizes, expand, and just really get back to the roots of things. So, just enjoying the time on the water, fishing with new people, meeting new people. That's one thing I always enjoy. With all the different anglers involved. And eventually we would like to, fish for, other states. There's some talk going on about that now, where we have other states that have the same electric fishing series, and getting them involved as well.
No, it's very impressive what y'all have done. Y'all were kind of the first, high stakes electric only club with the elites. And and that definitely it sent shockwaves through the electric only world, just because it was the first thing of its kind. And y'all had a prize at the end. I think the first year was supposed to be, a motor package. I'm not sure how all that went down, but either way, big prizes, big payouts, big entry fees. That was kind of the goal y'all had, and just trying to make electric only fishing as big as it possibly can. And and you see some of the tournaments. I think one series is the Rip and Lips Open Series in Virginia. I mean, their club tournaments have 40 plus boats. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got a lot of really really big electric only lakes. Like for my club, we cap it off at 20 boats, because a lot of the lakes we fish, 20 is it. And
Yep.
we probably could have had 25 pushing 30. I mean, I've had a few people, reach out, and people always end up, slacking off or not showing up. But, 20 boats is about as big as a club gets in Georgia, 20 to 25. Um,
Yeah.
and I've wondered, the last few years, I guess, as kayak fishing has gotten bigger, and there's the Bassmaster kayak. Like I'm waiting on somebody to, have an interest at the Bassmaster level to join to start up like a Georgia Bass Nation Electric, because Bass Nation is you've got your high school, you've got your college, you've got the Bass Nation regional events, you've got the team bass events, FLW, you've got Toyota Series, you've got BFLs. I mean, to me, and then you've got the big kayak, nationwide kayak and regional kayak tournaments through Bassmaster. So
Yeah. So
it's
so that's a
go,
huge part of what we're really trying to put the electric only fishing on the map. I mean, some of the waters that we fish are some of the best waters around, in my opinion. Um, there's several other opportunities throughout um, throughout the state, throughout neighboring states, um, and really just trying to uh, just bring awareness to it. Now, with that comes a lot of challenges, right? So you just mentioned the 20 boat max, and um, I was talking to Nate in Illinois, and they have some big tournaments that are um, that are limited by horsepower ratings, and but they have a lot of people on small on lakes, but they have a lot of more water than we have here in Georgia. So that we're learning as we go. Um, we this is our third year. Um, First 2 years, there's a lot of lessons learned, and we're trying to kind of molding as we go. I've got a great team surrounding me. Michael Geiger, Blake Yarder, Kerry Bell, um, gosh, Ryan with Tiny Boat Nation Southeast, um, and we're looking to to bring on some more for assistance with the South Division, um, and it's just it's really I want any and everybody to feel welcome, and I want you know or we want I should never say we but we all just want to do the best that we can for the sport. And there's a you know I think we're on a there's a lot of challenges, like you say, with the lakes. There's a lot of challenges um, with the locations, and I think you're going to see a lot more challenges as electric only continues to grow, which is huge here in Georgia now. But as it continues to grow, I think you're going to see more and more challenges um, around really informing the public and we had some conversations earlier around motors. Um, you know, I, I don't know where that's going to go. I don't know if there's going to be stipulations put um, on the lakes that we fish on sizing of motors and what those restrictions may look like. But um, I just really want to be a part of all of it, and I enjoy it. So I appreciate your support in that, and I appreciate um, everything that everybody does. I mean, we're at the end of the day, we're a big family. Um, I got out of big lake fishing um, several years back, and have really enjoyed just the people involved with this electric only world, and enjoyed the peaceful days on the water too, where you don't have to worry about cabin cruisers and getting out on the lake and getting off the lake early because of big boat traffic. And um, it's it's enjoyable. I'm really looking forward to what the future holds for electric only fishing.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think it's definitely going to grow, and it's just depending on how it's going to, and and there's been a couple different, efforts in the past couple of years, really with you guys, with the elites and now the electric fishing series of expanding and making it bigger. I mean, it's the accessibility to these motors and with Tiny Boat Nation and all the boat customizing, that kind of stuff getting bigger and bigger. And I mean, half of the electric only world to me is that people can buy a boat relatively cheap, do their own customizing, do their own builds, and and grow it. And that's like I'm excited to see where it goes. I mean, maybe it becomes a Bassmaster entity, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's FLW. Maybe it's the electric fishing series, nationwide. I mean, who knows where it'll go in the next 5-10 years? But um, I think it'll definitely grow, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
Yeah, and anybody that would like to get involved or wants to be involved, definitely reach out, and I, we could use all the help we can get because there's a lot of obstacles and a lot of growing to do and learning as we grow. So the more opinions and the more input that we get, you know the better off we are. And like I say, it's I never, I guess when I got into this, it's been uh, six 6 years, 8 years now, 6 years to the electric only fishing. I never thought that we would see the day where, well, I knew at some point it would happen. I didn't think it would be nearly this fast, but you'd see electric boats um, where they are today. And I definitely didn't think that you'd be fishing for, $20,000 to $30,000 prize packages. Um, I've still got a lot of friends in the big boat world, um, and they all give me a hard time all the time about fishing ponds. And I can tell you, it's not as easy as some might think. And I challenge them all the time. Hey, come out and fish with us. You don't have to. We can build you an aerated live well and out of a cooler and come out and get on the water with us. And it's not what you think it is. It's not as easy as you think it is. But it's also I kind of give it back to them. I'm like, look, you're in a 90 or $100,000 boat fishing for $6,000, and we're in a you know $6,000 to $20,000 boat fishing for $1,000 and for a grand prize of $20,000 to $30,000. And so it goes both ways. I like to give them a hard time, and they definitely like to give me a hard time. I got like I say, a lot of friends with Hammonds and stuff, and every time I walk in, how's pond fishing going? And I'm like, well, it's a little different than that, but it's going.
Yeah, and that's a lot of guys in this world I think are misunderstood. You'll see posts on like decked out John boats where the people will poke fun at the 6 and 7 and 8 mile an hour boats, and it's like none of us are against gas at all. I mean, I've got
No,
buddies with gas boats. I have a fishing ski. We go out on the lake, fairly often, but it's a misunderstood thing, and people, like you said, oh, you're fishing ponds, you're fishing little lakes, but I tell you, I mean, I honestly believe that we have some of the best anglers in the state that fish in that TEC. There are, I mean, yourself included. There are some certified hammers. I mean, they will kick your teeth in if you don't catch them. You will get your feelings hurt. I mean, and that's as my club has grown. I mean, used to when we had 12, 13 boats, you could have a mediocre day and finish top 5, top 7. Now, if you don't catch them, no, you're bottom of the barrel. I mean, it's you gotta really bring them in, and that's I think we have some of the best guys, best anglers, the community that we've met. Meeting you, meeting all the guys through the TEC, uh, this electrical community is just it's fantastic,
well, I
and
definitely appreciate it, and I appreciate everything that you guys do. All the club presidents and Merrick and everybody that works together on the TEC. Man, I know there's a ton of hard work that goes into that. And I told Merrick off. You know, we've had some discussions, and I told him, I need to do a better job myself of getting involved in that and helping out any way that I can. Um, just because I realize the amount of hard work that goes into it, and you all work together really well to put that together and to host that um, and to make things come together for it. So I can't thank you all enough for that. And um, like I say, I've got to do a better job myself of contributing to that.
Right. But no, yeah, it's a great thing we've got going here, and I hope we can keep the air and the sales of the TEC, and it can keep on going. But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here if you don't care.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go see if I can get these little girls in bed. So,
Got your hands
but man,
full,
I
huh?
appreciate. Yeah, 2-year-old and one that'll be 1 in June. So it is
Oh man.
wild over here most nights.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me on. And again, I can't thank you all enough for everything that you all do for the sport of fishing in general, and especially electric only fishing. And like I say, I've been blessed and blessed to be around really good people uh, that have all come together for the the sport in general. We kind of wrapping it up. I know we kind of seek about big lakes and small lakes, but we're all in it for the same reasons. We love to fish. We love time on the water with friends and family, and um, you know it, we all have the same common goals. Um, and everybody that's involved, that whether they know it or not, they're doing something for the sport. So really, it's a big shout out to everyone.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, thanks again for coming on, and I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, Eli.
Thank you for listening to the Bucktails Podcast.